Welcome to Politically Connected, a podcast on everything politics and governance in Kenya and Africa. We unpack the complexities of people, policy, and power. I'm your host, Diana Ngao,
aka Madam Speaker, and I am Chaka,
aka the Bishop. So welcome back. We are in 2025. The last time we tuliwacha 2024. So welcome to the new year Politically Connected in 2025. And this year, I'm sure you're noticing some different things here. We have a guest with us, and her name is Sarah Mwangi. I want to do the honors of introducing her. She will introduce herself. So karibu sana Sarah.
Thank you very
Politically
much.
Connected.
Hey, you guys have AKAs, nini.
Yeah.
Wow, so I'm thinking what AKA to start using this year. My name is Sarah Mwangi. I'm a journalist, a comms, a communicator, let's just put it that way. Help people work on strategies for communication for different things. And a content curator currently with pretty much Alpha House, but I also shoot and direct a lot of other documentaries out there.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So AKA now, I think I'm the voice of the citizens because we have the speaker, the bishop, yes.
Voice of the
Sauti
people.
ya
Voice
raia.
of the people. Yes. So now I've become the voice of God.
Yes.
Because the voice of the people is the
It's
voice of God.
Vox
Yeah.
Dei.
And I'm very happy to be here today.
Yes.
Yes.
Karibu sana to Politically, and also thank you for offering your set for this discussion.
So guys, welcome to Alpha House.
Yeah, that's where we segue.
Yes.
Yeah, but we're glad to have this conversation and to have you here with us today. So we normally start our conversations with one question. When did you gain your political consciousness? When did you become politically conscious?
Well, I'm trying to think.
That instinct for Vox Populi. Ilianzia wapi?
Maybe it's always been there, but maybe now becoming really aware. We can say maybe, I don't know if I have a day, but I grew up in a family that was very politically aware in the sense that my dad was involved in the political space, sort of.
Yeah.
And he's very much he probably is the one who made me end up in the journalism sector because he reads newspaper, even to date, like he buys newspapers,
files.
yeah, and he has a library. So all that, I think I got to now. Maybe I didn't know back then it was politics, but now that's the background I grew up in. So I probably picked it from there. But I think by the time I was going to campus, it was because that's where then I became a class representative. So that's politics, students, politics. So probably in campus. But now after is when you really get to know how important politics is as a Kenyan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a specific moment where now this is maybe past the point where now you ran for the class rep? Do you have a specific moment that you can remember in our political history that now you that gave you the like, oh yeah, I'm interested in politics, I want to follow current affairs maybe, I don't know whether you were a journalist then or maybe you were in school. Is there something that you can remember? What's your earliest memory?
Political Big Bang.
Big Bang.
Yeah.
I think, I was not so aware, but at least I'm a millennial.
Yes.
So I remember that transition from President Moi to Kibaki. Pretty much, I didn't know a lot. I was young. I was in primary school. But I remember the heat and the temperatures were so high. And the key was the way it used to be called NAC.
Yeah.
NAC.
It was NAC. It was
NAC,
just NAC.
that one, yes.
Yes.
And then how I found it fun was because they brought in artists. Back then, KJ, Waire, I don't know who, like they brought artists together to do the campaigns for, what was it called? And there's a campaign they were running, so they were bringing artists before now, Kina Raila could come, Nani. So all those things, I think back then, that's the first spark I thought, like, okay, this politics thing is nice. And then the wave that swept Kenya and people were so excited to have changed a president, I think that was like the first instance I'm like, this one, okay, I think this space for politics is interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is what I would cite. But now as a sober, fully person who understands, let's say 2013. Because now by then I was making a conscious decision. I was voting, knowing what I'm doing. And then we had these guys who had gone to ICC. They're coming. Kenyans are supporting them. Back then, I think I loved how eloquent they did. Okay, I don't know who crafted their campaigns, but it was very well done, such that I'm like, I think actually this is a good space to be in terms of doing comms, yes. But I think if you can make people look at two guys and the world buys the idea these are good people to lead a country, you've done well. So pretty much that's it.
So, given you've pointed to 2002, and this is around the time that you're in primary school and you're seeing what's happening. Now, living in a more digitally awakened age of information, and so primary school children have even more access to information. From your perspective, especially from your experience as a journalist where you have to balance very many considerations, what do you think the primary school children, the Gen Alpha, pun intended with Alpha House, the Gen Alpha, what do you think they were seeing last year? You know, we were very taken by our views, our perspectives, tuko na maoni, but what do you think they were seeing?
I think they saw. Okay, first, I feel Gen Alpha is very self-aware and very expressive. And I'm citing this because I've seen my sister's kids and how they speak their minds. So I feel these kids saw that the world is like what they see. Because for them, if you shout at that kid, they'll say, like, why are you shouting at me? So there's a day I've sat with him, I don't know what the mom did, and she's like, Mom, why are you shouting? Yeah. And the kid is like 5. So you see, this kid now from seeing what we are agitating for as now people who understand what governance is, they are seeing, I think it is a right. If you're not happy, you have a right to speak out and share your feeling without being told, you can't say that because it's bad. We don't tell that to our elders. Them, they don't know that language. So I feel they are seeing freedom and just thinking the world is like that because that's their first introduction to maybe the public political space, sort of. Because that's all they know. They do not know another side. As now I think because we have a comparative space, we can say, hey, that time for Moi, people used to say you don't mention the name, you can say no, they've come at a point where everyone can come, and they see it in the news because some folks still watch. They'll come and say, oh, Ruto is bad, oh, Raila is a conman. All these things are said on national TV. So these kids have grown knowing you can call out stuff. So I feel they just saw, oh, when you call out stuff and it doesn't, you're not given as you want, then you go to the street. So I feel like they imagine the world is like that.
So what do you think in light of especially calling out things and in an age where you have alternative media and legacy media is keeping up and essentially sometimes even taking a stance, borderline activism, arguably some people would say. As a veteran journalist, what do you think is the duty and responsibility of journalists and media to Gen Alpha?
Very interesting. What?
Maswali ngumu.
Very hard. And also I'm like, times have changed. So, okay, this is my view. Since I have been in the mainstream media and I have been on this digital space, one, mainstream media has a lot of regulations and restraints, and these are caused by, the key actually is commercial interests. Because, let's give an example. When Moses Kuria said that government will stop advertising with Nation. In Kenya, government is still the biggest advertiser. So if government withdraws, it means, okay, maybe Nation wouldn't be because Aga Khan and all that. But if you have your own media house, like let's say RMS, and government pulls out, that impact is felt by everyone. So whoever is running that media house, they're in business first. Let's agree. It's a business before it's a media house. It's a business. So that person is running a commercial entity. So what is their interest? Profits. So now, considering having that knowledge, you'd expect that that person will have 100%, what is it called? Interest in terms of the people.
Yeah.
It is not 100 because they have those restraints. Number two, as a journalist now working there, I genuinely would want to tell stories of certain things, but I am not in a position to. Or I'll even go and shoot. Then when we come and it's reviewed, we're like, this can't fly.
Because of the commercial interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even if it was not commercial, look at it. If we do this story, what's the impact?
Ah.
If we do a story and we say, I don't know which ministry has done what's the impact?
What's the impact?
So it's a balance of good,
Commercial.
commercial, common human interest. It's a bit of a. But now on this online space, I can easily, because I'm running on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube is operated from the US.
Yeah.
The much government can do for them to be interested in me, I have to have a lot of influence.
Yeah.
For them to really come and say, no, you're doing much. I mean, I know CAK, Media Council, has regulations on that, but they're not, the online space is so big for them to know who is doing what, where, when. At least for mainstream, they are sure. We have like maybe 60 radio stations, or maybe, let's say like 5 main TV stations. So it's very easy to monitor.
Yeah.
But for the online space, you wake up, someone went on TikTok and said things. So how many accounts will you monitor?
Yeah, I have a question now, even before we get into that. I had a question in something that you mentioned in terms of how sometimes a commercial interest gets into the practice of journalism. So because we are sisi ni podcast ya siasa, I have a question in terms like maybe tell us a bit more of your work now in mainstream media, and maybe some, I don't know whether there were any high tension political moments that made some media houses or your media house or wherever you are working have to pause before we craft a story.
Let me use the election. That's standard. 2017 election, that's when we had elections twice.
There's a repeat election. Yeah.
Yes. So that was a bit of a flair because it was just the whole process, and the fact that the Maraga came and said,
We've nullified.
we have nullified. And then the whole nation went like, and you know that thing, when you're in a media house, nobody wants to say, I am ODM, I am, because you have to try. I mean, the audience wants to see what is happening in the world without giving a care you are ODM. The truth is, it's very hard for you to separate yourself from a side.
Yeah.
I mean, you're human at the end of the day. So number one, there's that balance of, especially the last 3 months when campaigns are on, you have to be, if let's say Raila has a rally in Busia, Kenyatta back then has a rally in Gatun, like you have to, how long have you covered this one? No, you guys are giving more airtime to. So you see, that's why sometimes you see guys put a split screen for you to now decide.
Yeah.
So you can see the balance that people have to go through.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you will even have a technical hitch, but people think you've killed that
Story.
It's a live event. Why did you remove that? Guys, it's technical. It has nothing to do with me. So there's a lot of balance. Then now when that declaration was made in the newsroom, you could tell who was on which side.
Oh.
Of course.
Oh my gosh, that's
Because
really
it's the first reaction.
Yeah.
And you'll see, like, everyone, there are people who are cussing, there are people who are like, oh, all those things. So you can see it. So now you can imagine going for the second round, how that feels. In the newsroom, knowing very well.
This person is on this other
Yes.
side and this person is on the... And I mean, I can imagine, because that was the first time ever in our history that an election has been nullified and we're going for a rerun. I can imagine, like, because...
People were crying in the newsroom.
Wow.
So you
having to remove your
that
feelings
that
and then
person
go
is
to
an
the
editor,
court.
like he's your boss.
And I'm
And
glad.
maybe imagine you're on the other side. So you're happy, like, wow, thank God the courts have nullified. Then there's someone crying who you're giving a story to.
Excellent. And you know, that's a question that was mulling at the back of my mind when you talked about commercial interests and being aware that there are politicians who own media houses and media franchises. So my question is, what is the role, therefore, of editorial policy, and do we have a good culture of editorial policies in Kenya?
I think we have tried, because it's a very, Kenyan politics gives you a very tricky balance most of the time. So we have tried much, because I have worked in a station that was owned by a politician. And somehow they try editorial stuff. They try a lot because they're also human. So imagine you dictating, we want this and this, and then you remember deep down this other person, the owner of this company is on the other side. And even when you do, like when reporters do stories, sometimes you'll do a story that points to that person that is okay. It may not be him direct, but their business partners maybe. So they've done something that is not good for the people. So see, you're reporting, yes, because you feel you have a duty to tell the truth and to have the interest of the people first. But you also have to think about, so sometimes, basically, let's say they try a lot. Because also balancing in Kenya is very, Kenyans will never see any good.
Yeah.
But I think now, because of technology, it's becoming harder. Because if I do a story, or I fail to do it, someone else will pick that story. So whether I do it because I'm in the digital space, that's a plus. So it gives me numbers. So it makes now people start devaluing the value that mainstream media has. But the truth is, legacy media plays a critical role. Because also, look at it. In Kenya, what's the internet penetration? We are like at 40%.
Yeah.
So there's maybe not a full 60%, but maybe there's a
significant
significant
portion.
that only listens to radio.
Because hata unaweza kuwa na penetration lakini ana bundles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So considering all those things, legacy still they have a place. I mean, they have their flaws,
Yeah.
but they have their place.
Especially of radio. There's a time I visited Marsabit County, and I learned that they do. The way we wake up and it's easy to access newspapers very early in the morning. At that time, which was a couple of years ago, like newspapers would arrive maybe past 10, almost going towards midday. Yeah. So they really rely on radio. Yeah. So it's true. Now, because you mentioned that you've worked for a station that is owned by a politician, and we're speaking in terms of sometimes how hard it is to remove yourself, because you're a Kenyan number one, even before you became a journalist. Yeah. You're a Kenyan number one. It's your civic right to vote. It's your civic right to participate in politics. Now, do you think, and this is in your opinion, do you think politicians should own mass media stations?
Should I speak as a lawyer? I know your co-host is a lawyer. As a citizen.
In your opinion,
as a citizen.
Yeah, as a citizen.
As a citizen, I feel no, they shouldn't. Okay, I mean, that question has the right to those things. Yeah. I have the right to do business. Blah.
Yeah.
But as a citizen, I feel they should. If it were possible, I wish we had a way of not having politicians interfere with media. Yeah. It would be more. We'd have some sanity. Yeah. Some. Okay. And also, you see, like now, if you look like in Kenya, the government station, where is it?
KBC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is it in terms of
viewership? Yeah.
So what do you think?
So you see I mean, a personal, like if me as a person who's commercially I'm doing this for commercial stuff.
Yeah.
I have focus on it and I'll push it.
Yeah.
But the way our government works.
Yeah.
So what do you think, therefore, because there's ownership, but they could also be close association, right, where you're able to influence things. And there's a reason why media was considered, almost an arm of government because of its accountability, the role of accountability. and hence why you need a free and fair media. What do you think now on the global stage of Elon Musk's influence? And remember, this is arguably the president of America is leader of the free world. Debatable. But now you can see this in light of new media, because this is now new media as well to be considered, and the influence that we are now seeing Elon having.
I think Elon is just a different case because sometimes I feel like it's an illusion that we have about free media. It's an illusion. That's my thinking. Look at it this way. Elon owns X. So during the Trump's campaign, what happened? He was pushing the content that was, even when you, these are I think like 2 days you're searching on Google or even on X, all you see is, you search about Kamala, you can't see. And even them, there's a thing they did, you search about Trump, you can't see. So that's what I'm saying, it's a delusion of freedom. I mean, even that's America. So you can imagine us here in Kenya. What I think about his influence, no, we're in a third world. Let's just
that's true. I'm just thinking now. You're giving me more context. Yeah.
So when I look at Elon, I think it's imaginary. And you remember that guy who owns is it Washington Post, who was not pro-Trump, but then when he saw he's winning, he's like, okay, fine, we will support the president. What does that mean? He's scared. He doesn't want to have policies that will affect his business. So it's very hard to separate the two. But free media, I feel like it's also basically, because even on YouTube today, there are things you will post and they will strike. So how free are you at the end of the day?
Yeah. So
I mean, there are words you mentioned. Even today, I know, like the guys who were disturbing us when Kibaki was in power and we had to send our army to deal with them.
yeah.
You do that,
Yeah.
it goes down. You mention certain things, it goes. So what does that tell you?
It's not truly free. But I feel like sometimes these checks and balances, or rather these policies and there's a responsibility we bear when we have the mic.
Yes, that is true.
You know, that there are some things that I may say that may trigger a certain negative response. So I understand. I actually hear you when you're saying that free media is an illusion. I can see that, and that's why I want us to segue into something that is more even contextualized. And right now, in the front of us as Kenyans, as Africans, is the Africa Union Chairmanship. In your opinion, how do you feel like the media has framed this run compared to the one in 2017?
I think this one has been more, well, the first they are different. One, because Amina was already an ambassador, so I think it was an easier push in a way. Number two, the access to information we have today is not the same I mean, I know TikTok was there, but it was not a big deal. So I feel they have they came at different spaces, so all of them are doing them a bit differently. I feel like Raila has had to do also more work across. I think Uhuru had a lot of influence with leaders, or is it some more friendship across? Yeah, he was fluid with leaders across. So maybe for him it was easier. Kenya, on the other hand, today, I feel like the president we have, other African leaders feel like we have crossed their paths on different things. Like we did not recognize that West Sahara nation. You know, like we've made some gaffes that are a bit. We spoke about the Israel-Palestine war in a way that did not make I think SADC and whatever. So there's a lot of mix-up of things. I think we've also, I mean, there are different facets involved in it. But in terms of support, I feel like Raila has really gotten a lot of support. And he himself has done a lot of groundwork. Because Raila has put work.
Yeah.
He's put a lot of work.
He has.
The biggest problem is that it came after Kenya had that issue of Gen Z demos. So home, his support is a bit shaky because of how he segued into the government and then the appointment. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest misdoing.
I have a theory, and now I'm asking in your capacity, not as a journalist or a journalistic background, just as a Kenyan. Do you think the candidature of Raila Odinga for the AUC chairmanship was a political maneuver or something great and posthumous for Kenya?
It can be both.
It can be both.
Yeah,
Also.
it is
You can
both.
answer both.
I feel like it is both. It was political in the sense that Ruto had seen how Gen Zs had pushed him. And people believed, even to date, I mean, give it to Raila. Raila has such a huge influence in this country. And at that point, any decision he made would have affected how Ruto was going to govern. So Ruto had to find a quick way of ensuring I have Raila's support, but I don't want him at home. Yes, because now if he's home, he's going to be pushing me oftentimes. So he's running away from that. So in that sense, it was political. However, I feel also on the other hand, I don't know if it's the best retirement way for Raila Odinga, because I mean, he's done much for this country. But the decision he made at that point had the good and the bad. The good is that it settled the matter at that point. The ugly part is that we had lost so many young people, and then he's gotten into a government that is not sitting well with a lot of the citizens. So even the good that he's done is now getting soiled with, like, why are you know, like he's getting that's why I'm saying even his campaign, he's not gotten a lot of support from here, because people feel, why did you take advantage of?
Yeah, despite of the so much work and
Yeah.
hard work he's doing across Africa, it seems that he's not connecting with home. Like if we were the citizens who are voting.
The good thing is
It's not
presidents.
us,
Yeah,
yeah.
so at least he has that pass. And then I think also the fact that now people have used social media to
Tarnish.
yes.
Yeah.
So you see now it's presidents who are voting, but Kenyans are doing emails. Hi. So you can imagine you are the Minister of Foreign Affairs in, say, where? Malawi.
Yeah.
You're getting 300 emails. Oh, it's.
I have maybe a devil's advocate kind of question, and this is inspired by your mention of the word a good retirement. You don't know whether it's a good retirement, but two things. One, and you've also mentioned that for the president, it was to get this political enigma. People speak of Raila money and Raila phobia out of the way. What if, however, on the other hand, this, if he wins especially, it builds his profile, right? And I mean, if he's strong enough to be president of Africa, in 2 years it builds his profile, and he would announce in a year and a half, I suppose, he decides to run in the upcoming election. That's question number one. Question number two.
Interesting.
Remember, Honorable Mukisa Kitui resigned from the World Trade Organization to come run for presidency. So it's not unfathomable, right? Number two, as much as we're saying the president wanted Baba out of the way, what if from that position he's able to influence, and he likely may, several policies and, FDIs, foreign direct investment, a lot of policies, African continental free trade that work in Kenya's favor, that then boost the president's profile further and success. Two questions.
I'll start with the second. I don't think, actually, people need to understand this post has nothing to do with Kenya, by the way, except for, okay, it has everything to do with Kenya that Raila is Kenyan. But in terms of the work, has nothing to do with here at all.
You'll be debated heavily on that one.
Yes, it will, but that's a fact. There's nothing he will influence that changes how we fund our budget here in Kenya. That we need to get that out. In terms of having him out, the first question was, get the enigma out of the political space.
So yeah, the first question was, what if you've talked about it in the context of retirement.
Yes.
But what if it's
Oh.
actually building his profile and he comes back to run for president?
I hope actually Raila gets it because that's a good profile to build. However, an election is in 3 years. How
2.5.
How old is Raila today?
And that's why I said, since he a full term is 4 or 5 years for the AU.
Yeah.
So if he can serve a full term and probably a second one, why not be able to be sufficiently
President.
competent and healthy to run for president in Kenya?
Running
Are there constitutional limits to how old?
No. Actually, age, that
Still
is
enjoys
discrimination.
political rights,
Yes.
exactly.
I think it won't even be a matter of age. It's a matter of, what do we call this? When your high is high. I feel like Raila had such a good chance in 2013 and 17. Like he was, after Kibaki, he was the perfect. Okay, not perfect. That was the perfect timing for him. But now, as he grows older, there are so many other emerging voices that are coming. I mean, Ruto came in and beat him. Yeah, so you can imagine now him at, let's say, in 2-3 years, I don't know. Okay, we have all these people who've raised their names. Imagine coming to beat that. And then the fact that he's going to be away for a while means he's going to miss quite a lot about Kenyan politics. The second thing is, who are the biggest voting bloc in Kenya? The youth. When you talk to the youth, or even when you go to online space, do you feel like they want anything to do with Raila Odinga as a president? Debatable.
Debatable, yes.
But chances are they want nothing to do with those old people.
Actually, that's how they frame it. They're like, we want a new bunch. We're done with the old, the recycled. They're actually calling it recycled leaders.
Yeah. So I feel him as a person can run. I mean, he's Raila Odinga. At the end of the day, he can.
And he has the right to.
Of 100%. He's Kenyan, he's, sound mind, all those. But the fact that now the voting bloc is the young people. And during that Gen Z season, I learned there's so many people who know nothing that Raila has done.
They know him by name?
Yeah, they know it's Raila, they know he's been in opposition. But if you ask them, can you name like 5 things that are very important for this country? Asiana kwanga to opposition. They know nothing. So I think the voting bloc is what would keep him away. But in terms of him running, he can. And I trust Raila actually to make a U-turn like that. He's very unpredictable.
Yeah, and what do you see in terms of, now we are getting into the point of scenarios, but what do you see in terms of if he was to do that U-turn, or rather stay 2 years, and then do that U-turn and come back and run, and someone else is running his party in the meantime, do you think his political party or his political base has the glue? It seems like Raila Odinga was the glue. Will the glue last when he's not here? In your
For
opinion?
that party?
Yeah.
For the party, no. And that's why we are seeing a lot of the young legislators who are in ODM. Sifuna, Babu, all these guys, Onyonka, these guys are speaking their minds openly. And I feel like they've already seen Raila is getting out of this thing. And they feel, after whatever happened last year in Kenya, they feel it's an awakening for them. So they're like, it's either they'll be kicked out of that party and form new parties, which is highly likely, especially when we see, okay, if Raila wins, whoever takes up that position, I think those young legislators in that party will exit and form their own parties.
Okay.
So that glue is gone.
Raila is a glue, basically.
They cannot. Even today, they are fighting in parliament already.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very interesting, actually, if the scenario is otherwise.
If he loses?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Because he comes back and again now disrupts politics. And then now ODM people will be confused again for a moment. They're like, so now? And they have to wait for him to communicate. And just look at what he did the other day, saying he entrusts Sakaja with Nairobi politics. You saw what happened. And even everyone was like, when he asked Babu out of this. So already people like Babu are, I mean, like, I'm sure he's not happy. Yeah. So Sifuna did not comment.
Yeah.
You know, he's the secretary of the party. So when you see these people being calculative, and every day when they speak in parliament, they're actually speaking the voice of the people. They are the only legislators who make a lot of things that are in line with what the people are raising. So when you see such things happening, it's a sign that soon, ODM is going to be very interesting to watch.
Given a number of considerations, number one, you've talked to a few issues that are problematic to our political culture, and that is, for instance, political parties being tied to the cult of personality and political personalities, whereas our constitution and our current are supposed to be institutions. That's what the Constitution anticipates. That's what our constellation of laws anticipates. And these are not institutions for purposes of being electoral vehicles, but they are institutions for national good and national progress, right? And that's why you even have a whole office of the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. You have laws on regulating even political funding and the like. We have a long way to go, but we've come a long way. So given in that context, we're trying to move away from this political parties being tied to personalities, that it only lives as long as an election cycle or once a leader exits the stage, exits with the party. To its credit, ODM is the oldest political party that we have. And you just mentioned right now that in Parliament, they're the most vocal about issues, right? And then consider recently, you had a situation where you did have a transition in terms of the party leadership being handed over, first of all, to Gladys Wanga as chair and to Professor Anyang' Nyong'o as party leader. So that's already happened, right? So that's, you can see that shift happening. Do you think, in light of that, and even this is a party, for instance, that has a directorate of permanent employees, not doing part-time gigs. Yeah. You have even procurement processes for procuring for the party.
I actually wanted to say that ODM's procurement processes are almost like
a professional.
Yeah.
So don't you think, to some credit should be given, that a lot of effort has been given, considering where the Constitution intends that we go, to institutionalizing this party? And last year you saw that it was the party that had complied with the regulations and the compliance threshold in the law. Yeah.
I mean, I think as a country, ODM is the best party in terms of running affairs, not in terms of other things. It's the best party we've had. Also being the oldest party that has held all through.
Is it really the oldest party?
I think it's the oldest party in Kenya. That is functional. Don't look at, I know KANU exists, but that's a different story.
No, the KANU, there's a new KANU. The old KANU isn't there.
And who is index 001 in ORPP list?
You see, that on that list is a person, not a party.
No, on ORPP, the registration is how. Okay, maybe this is a question to both of you, if you know. How do they, like when you look at ORPP and you go the list and the list of political parties, do they rank now? This one, the one that you see the first, is it because it was the first one that was registered when ORPP's office was established?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think ODM the fact that they've run for a while, they've learned the loops. So it's easier for them to understand. And then they were not formed for convenience. Raila did not form that party for convenience at that time. He had an idea of where he's taking this. And he's been able himself, as Raila Odinga, to hold a lot of voter base. So the fact that he has that base, it's easier for him to hold the party because people still hold on to the Raila, we are going that direction. So he's had that advantage. Other politicians, well, not many of them have that influence. So that has played a part. The fact that they put structures, that's, as you said, it's where we want to go. But as we speak, even with the current government, do you think UDA will go past this?
And actually, you mentioned that, and that's a very key question. And part of where I was going with that initial question was to then ask, in light of that history, in light of how well organized this machinery is, this Gen Z are saying that, because you were saying they're tired, they don't want the old guard. But these are some of the well-oiled machineries that they're coming to face. Are they doing enough beyond the agitation and the online clamor? Are they doing enough to be organized politically to then agitate for their rights? Are they taking the necessary steps from registration to, of both of themselves? Because you may be the biggest potential voting bloc, but if you're not able to have that instrument, then you're not able to act on it. And you may also all come out to vote, but do you have a candidate? And is that candidate an independent candidate, or will you have, you saw with the protest last year, you had quite a number of young people coming out to say that we are speaking for them. Others took advantage of the situation. So how does that, this reality of experienced, well-oiled machinery, who are still Kenyans, right? Age doesn't disqualify them, juxtaposed against this impassioned, new, politically aware class that is coming onto the scene?
Okay, I think, number one, we need to appreciate that a lot of people were so aloof with what was happening in the country previously. So people, really, it was, I think also the access to information has awakened people in a way. So now people are more aware that for you to make change, you don't just make noise. A country is governed by structures. So when a lot of, especially the Gen Z, at least millennials probably understand, because even the education system that was there taught you things, so you had an idea. Coming to Gen Zs, I feel like they woke up, but they were not aware. They were so disconnected with how a country runs. But now, because there are folks and their brothers and sisters who are supporting them, every day they come home, they're like, wow, I can't buy you burger today because... So now when it started hitting home, that's when they were like, you mean running a country ends up affecting me? Because if my mom has to pay more money for SHA and housing and nini, then he will cut something here. So now they understand. So that's the awakening that pushed them to politics. Give it to them, it's been maybe an year, they're learning the loops. Of course, most of them didn't know you have to have a party. And there was that whole thing of independence. So people really didn't know the structures that were really needed and the kind of machinery and work it takes, because you have to do a lot of work to move. People used to see Raila and think he just makes noise. When you sit and understand the behind the scenes of what ODM is to stand, you understand. When you see someone running with a party and crying because they didn't get the certificate, you understand. So all these things are things that our people are learning now, and it's good. And I appreciate, look, like people like Morara, what happened? He came during that movement, he learned, and now he knows he needed a party, because those conversations now went online where guys were educating each other. Fine. You don't want the old, but you can't have a president if you don't have a party. Yeah. So you see what he did, went and registered, it's called Inject or something. Inject party. I mean, even the way he's running it is very guesswork, because he's never ran a political party. So you can't compare that, how that young person will lead with like how ODM runs. I mean, these are old guards, they know every corner of this country. They know how things are supposed to run. So it's a learning experience. Unfortunately, a lot of them will burn as we learn. But also, will they then get a candidate as with a young people's party? I don't think so. It's tough. I think it could be a good thing to join this parties that are already existing, because these are human beings that work there.
Yeah.
But then you have to influence a lot of young people to understand, so that even they take up roles in these parties. Because if you don't take up a role,
that was actually where I was going to lead to.
yeah, you can't just sit and wait for change.
Yeah.
And you're just speaking on TikTok. It's good you're talking on TikTok, but real change happens in that august house.
Yeah.
So, and you can't send Diana to August house, or send me, or get yourself out.
Yeah.
So we, as young people, I think people need to appreciate how a country is governed. You don't just wake up and things run. It's like if you have a house, there's a way you run things. So it's the same. But now this one, you have to be more intellectually involved. And people have to agree to do the hard work, because running parties is work. I mean, if running a family is work, now you can imagine 50 million people.
Yeah.
And you're entrusted as a president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that as much as they're agitating, they need to formalize themselves in political parties.
Yes.
And ideally even join older political parties, because and to understand how things run as they agitate and try to influence. Now my question to you, Sarah, is have you become a member of a political party?
That is personal.
No, I'm not asking whether you don't have to name the political party, but have you become a member of a political party? And has it influenced, if you have or if you have not, has it influenced how you vote in the previous elections?
I have, to be very truthful, I have not been a member of any party. Am I planning to? As of now, yes, because now I know better. I mean, of course, I had the idea, but I never used to see like political party membership is.
Yeah.
See, you just join a party if you want. It doesn't deny me anything as a Kenyan. But now I know, since I'm in this space where I feel we are pushing for change, if I want that change, I mean, there's no angel that will land from heaven and come and fix. If today I want to join, let's say ODM, I will. If I want to make any change in ODM, and I'm making noise on this side, and I'm not in there, how else will that be? So yes, I'm planning to do that, because I feel that's the only, and this is actually a call out to a lot of young people. Please join political parties. That's the only way we'll be able to drive change. I know voting itself is a way of change, but if you really want to change these parties and how they run for a better way, that's the only way.
And even just influencing the policies and the ideological stance, because Chaka is talking about us coming out of the cult of personalities and having parties that stand for ideological stance. Because as much as ODM is a well-oiled run machine, which we appreciate, but do we know what actually ODM stands for? Like, do we have an ideological direction for Orange? You know, when it started, Orange Democratic Movement was to say no to that proposed draft of
it was a chungu, I remember.
Yeah, that proposed draft of the Constitution. I think it was the Yash Palgai draft.
It was a Constitution,
the Wako draft, I think. I'm not sure which one it was that they were.
The draft had been, from the time it had gone through the delegates process, and then it went through the office of the AG, what the president presented to the country was not what the people had agreed on.
Wow. Well,
it was changed.
That was the biggest controversy.
Yeah, but you see, like ODM was then formed as a special purpose vehicle. I mean, it's called also Orange Democratic Movement. It was formed as a movement to say, no, this is not what we said. And now we are getting to the point where we're moving from, we are agitating to also move from cult of personalities. And that's where Gen Zs were saying we are leaderless, we are partyless, we are, what else?
I mean, it was a good thing at that moment, because I feel like that was the easiest and the best way to run at that moment.
Yeah.
But now that we've gone through the months after, we know you cannot be partyless.
Yeah.
That is an illusion.
Yeah.
You won't go anywhere with your partylessness. That's a tribeless. I mean, there's nothing wrong with me being a Kikuyu.
Yeah.
We need to accept that this is Kenya and we have a diversity of tribes. The problem is now using tribe as yes. But there's nothing wrong with me meeting Luya people discussing their thing or even doing disco matanga. Surely. Sasa awinja asishoot disco matanga ati ndio asikue ethnic. You know, it doesn't make sense. So people need to understand we were tribeless for that moment because the goal was one, which was a very good goal. If that is how we're going to use our tribe That's a win. But now when you start saying you're using these for certain agenda, then that is wrong.
You've mentioned a very important point in terms of tribe, and because you have also experience in legacy media, because some of the times when these tribal narratives are said in different platforms and they cover, I feel like they do have a responsibility on how they report it. Do you have any thoughts in how better legacy media would be able to frame so that we remain identified as I'm a Kikuyu, I'm a Mijikenda, I'm a Luya, I'm a Luo, and all this, but still also identify as this Kenyan. At the end of the all, we have this distinct diverseness, but also what brings us together is Kenyan. So do you think or feel like the media, how better can the media support this agenda of cohesion, but also appreciating the cultural diversities based on, because you see the thing is, as a politician, if you're Kikuyu and I am a different tribe and Kikuyu seems to be a voting bloc, I could easily just turn our differences in terms of tribe into political score points and tell these people now, no, these guys, don't listen to them. Usiguze mulima, how watu they're entitled and all those narratives. But how can media support? Because a politician is a politician. They may say what they need to say for political expediency and convenience. But what about now the role of media and even us who are in alternative media in helping masses better frame how these politicians are speaking?
I think sometimes it's tricky, especially if these are live events.
Yeah.
Because someone will speak, imeenda. Sasa, what is media supposed to do at that point?
Yeah.
So we judge them harshly, but sometimes it's not. On the flip side, I feel sometimes it is good they air the raw things that have been said so that you understand the kind of people you're dealing with. Because we will cover up, like Sarah went and said this and this, bad thing. NCIC will come for me because it went somewhere. Yeah. If it was hidden, NCIC would never know. So then what will be the role of us having that NCIC? So sometimes also it is knowing this, the kind of people we have some of them are just stupid. It's good for Kenyans to know you elected someone who is stupid. And they said stupid things. You get?
Yeah.
So, but in terms of, if anything, I feel like the media tries a lot on that part. A lot.
Yeah.
Because that balance sometimes is very... It's hard, but they try a lot. A lot. I think, but I feel like the online space has opened up because when you go to TikTok, you can easily find Taita TikTok, Kikuyu TikTok. Yeah. So now people are promoting their languages, not for anything per se, but for the fun of it and promotion of culture. So the use of technology, with the new media, it's working. Mainstream, we have local vernacular stations, so sometimes they also try and push agendas, but yeah, I think also it's how we are introduced to our, I don't know, it's how you're introduced, like you're told you're Kikuyu, so 1, 2, 3, or you're Somali, so yeah, it has nothing to do with media. It has everything to do with the family.
Culture. So
yes, because it starts at
your
home.
Tribe first before you even identify as a
Kenyan. Yeah, so it's how it's introduced. So that needs to start at the family space because that's where the child comes.
So two questions in that regard, because part of that it's a question of identity, and therefore the identity of your immediate community is clearer than the identity of Kenya, defining what it means to be a Kenyan. Yeah. So what is the role of media in that regard, right? And number two, you've mentioned that running a family is difficult. Imagine 50 million people, right? As a family. So, and in that 50 million people, you're referring to the president leading this country and the challenges of that. So, given the responsibilities of media for accountability, and given our current context, is the role of media just to critique and sometimes nitpick, or do they also have a responsibility to highlight the positive things that are being done? and so that people can have an opportunity to make an objective decision.
Media plays both. I mean, they have, and let's give it to them actually. I think media generally shows you both the positive and negative a lot of times. Sometimes because our lens is this is negative,
But
we
it
never
sells.
see it sells. So a lot of, I mean, when let's say like okay, when Shah was introduced, let me use that. There's an old man. I think he was in I don't know which hospital, but I think somewhere in Kiambu. That story was number one on Citizen TV, and it was just presenting the challenges. And that old man was crying. What happened immediately? Kenyans rallied together to find his number and send money. And that story was done the following day. So you see, media is showing you, fine, Shah has its challenges, but what happened after that? But now the question was, fine, this is one case we've highlighted, he's gotten help. What's happening to the millions of others? So when now Kenyans do that part of the millions, then especially government will be like, no, you guys don't want to say the good things we are doing. But again, government has poor communication. So when you have poor communication, then you want to blame the media. So how will the media come and ask, what have you done? When even when they call for interviews for these CSs.
Yeah, and part of the reason I was asking that question and why I led with the issue of a Kenyan identity is if the president is also a symbol of unity, right? So, and there's I think a fine balance sometimes between our views of the occupier of that office, but also our how our views and what we put out there affects the institution of the presidency.
It does. I feel like I don't know how government will work on communication. And number two, the people that I think the presidency, or no, the president, irrespective, today it's Ruto, tomorrow it could be me or whoever gets in that seat needs to know, do not put your cronies because they helped you campaign in especially places that you need professionals. If they are not, if they are professional, well and good. Because those people won't know how to communicate. You see, like the idea of maybe like affordable housing, for instance. I know it's Kenyans don't like it at all. The truth is, probably, Kenyans needed a project that could touch them on maybe like improving on, manufacturing industry. So if he puts professionals who really understand what is the need of Kenyans, they probably wouldn't have gone for housing. Because housing, and then you promise 200,000, then you talk to architects and they tell you it's not practical. But we have National Housing Finance, which is a government which should have communicated to the president, yes, that one, and said that is not practical. So you see now, when that fails, it becomes very hard for people to look and feel like the government is working for them. But if you had gotten professionals who had done an analysis of the groundwork and find out what is ailing Kenya, unemployment, what is the biggest way, construction would actually be a very big industry and will employ so many people. But how do we go about it? So good idea, wrong execution. Then how you communicate. When you bulldoze on people, now it becomes they say resistance becomes a duty when it's duty what. So if you're forcing something down our throats, we just resist for the sake of it. Yeah. So you see that communication becomes bad. And it's unfortunate what you're saying, because now we're in the age of information. So people will write things. These bad things display Kenya on the larger map. Yeah. So globally, people look at it and wonder, but when is this country called Kenya? So what is the role of media in giving Kenya a good image? Communicating all those good things. They do. But Kenyans have also, I think we are very entitled as a country, as a people. We have a lot of entitlement. It is true, sometimes. Number two, we have, it is not the role of media at all to be portraying you in good. It is, we have organized, why do we have something like Magical Kenya? Who are our first stars when they step out there, especially what Kenya is known for? Sportsmen. How do we treat them? Oh, their Sijui kit got lost. Yeah. In Sijui, then we see someone has won it, Sijui walking in the estate. Such things. like government has so many bodies and people that can sell this country, but I think that thing of having cronies and people who just really don't care about country, the media will show. But I mean, it's like those fun things people make of how BBC does documentaries of Africa, and we are all from Akahat, and we are crying, we don't have food. Kenya is not like that. I mean, there are situations that are like that, but generally, that is not how we are. We have a lot of positive things going on. But the fact that the administration currently in place is being fought right, left, and center, it becomes very hard to see. But does media portray these positive stories? Yes, they do. Even vloggers nowadays, I mean, on the new whatever, there's a lot of vloggers, YouTube, TikTok. People portray a lot of good things. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a school of thought that actually says, based on what you're saying, is that the team that you campaign with cannot be the team that you govern with, because the mindset needs to shift. Because now, from a communicator's point of view, the communication that goes when it comes to campaigning is not the same communication when it comes to governing.
Yeah.
It's completely different. And I feel like that's what you're pointing to, because I had the same sentiment when this regime now took power, is that they seemed to be still in campaign mode in terms of their communication. And whether it's debatable, I don't want to debate this here, whether housing levy was good or bad at that time, or not housing levy, the affordable housing, whether it was good or bad, the communication at that time, because it seemed more of campaign, the mode was still campaign mode, that it fell on deaf ears. Even if you're saying that, hey, even Nairobi's or all these cities will have so many, like, our population growth is growing and we want to support that population. Even if that is a fact, how you're communicating. And I get what you're saying in terms of the cronies. Like, you shouldn't.
Yeah, don't put them in places where they can't deliver, because they will fail you. And people won't see them because they don't know them. I mean, unless for people like Ndi, who will just come and talk to us the way he wants. But for most of these professionals, nobody knows them, or these cronies. You just hear they're normally seen. But who will be pinpointed? Yeah, everyone will come and say the president this, the president that. So as a president or even a governor or whatever position, you have to be very key in terms of,
So let me ask you a question. If you are, hypothetically speaking, called to work at State House, would you view it as working for the incumbent president or as an opportunity to serve the country?
That question is tricky. I think, it's hard. I have not worked for any president, but I feel when you get in that position, it's a 50-50. Because the president is supposed to work for the nation.
Yeah.
But will the president make decisions that are personal? Chances are yes. So at that point, if I'm supposed to execute something, will it be personal or national?
It's linked to a question we had in our previous conversation about when the political leader that you're working for instance, goes and coalitions with a perceived previous opponent. So that's another way of looking at that situation.
Yeah, but we've veered off our main topic, which was, but that's how politics is, which was in terms of AUC, and I want us just to bring us back into the AUC chairmanship that's happening this weekend. I normally say that this February 15th is the new year for Kenya, because the political landscape is completely going to shift, whether for better or for worse, that's up to debate. But we cannot ignore the political significance of Raila Odinga in our country.
Yes.
We can't ignore that. So now, in your opinion, Sarah, what do you think will Raila, like, if Raila gets it, what will happen in our political space, apart from, I know we mentioned about ODM, but now knowing everything else that's coming up, we have people who are launching new parties, we have new formations in terms of other new candidates wanting to run for president. Like, what happens if Raila gets the AUC chairmanship?
basically, if he exits the political Kenyan space.
Yeah.
Number one, I think Raila himself will have a very good retirement package.
Okay.
I mean, that's a good thing for him.
Amepigania country for
he needs to
very long.
I mean, he will stop being disturbed by people here, right, left, and center. So that is for him. In terms of Kenyan politics, I think Ruto will breathe a sigh of relief, knowing, come what may, probability, Raila is not here in 2027. So now I have to look around who.
Do you think now the ODM people who are left will have a sense of thank you, William Ruto?
Many of them want him to go. That is just the truth.
Oh.
That's why you're seeing 100 of them ODM guys, everyone, especially the ones in ODM, they really want to see who Baba will endorse to take over that party. Like, for real, now, leave alone this political Wanga is chairman. Those are just balancing acts to hold. But now the official holders, I think Babu wants that. Probably Sifuna wants it. Probably Wanga really wants to stamp it. Maybe Millie Odhiambo wants. All these people want Junet. So, to an extent, they are fighting. And that's what I was saying. I feel like ODM will crumble because there are so many interests. Yeah. So either ODM, the party will be there. What will crumble is membership. Yeah. So these guys will come, check out groundwork, see who's doing what. You will even see some of them in Wamonyoro probably going to get endorsement. So a lot will happen in that space. And I feel like we will have, you see there we had NAK, then NAK Kenya. I feel like we'll have an ODM something. Yes, whatever they call it. Someone will form that, and that will carry maybe half of the membership. Of course, Raila will have a hand in saying who takes up that space. But whichever way he swings, he will still hurt a lot of them. Because it's not, they were in for him, not for anything. It is Raila they were in. Yeah. So the moment he says, maybe Millie Odhiambo is it, Babu will sit and wonder, me, I'm young. So how long shall I wait? Yeah. And you see, he's looking at his peers across Africa who are becoming presidents who are younger than him.
I actually saw that he went and visited Traore.
Yeah, he was, I don't know if he met him, but he was in Burkina Faso. So you see, when he starts seeing that, he'll question. So, and now, knowing the biggest population is the youth, he's like, if this chance passes, will 2032 be the same? So a lot of the thinking will be around that. Yeah. So from there, I think that will change. Also, there will now be more clear formations because everyone is watching to see what happens to Raila, because Raila cannot be ignored in Kenyan politics. Yeah. So everyone is waiting. He goes, now everyone knows where to patch.
So you've thought about it in terms of, for instance, what happens in ODM. But regardless of who takes over the mantle of ODM, what do you think will be the implications of the Luo nation as a voting bloc, having seen William Ruto supporting Baba for the AUC chair if he wins?
That's very interesting. I think they are divided. They are pretty divided. There are some who feel he supported Raila and maybe Raila got the position. So some of them will be grateful and feel like it's a plus. Even some will be happy that broad-based people are inside. So for some of them, it will be a plus. There'll be another bloc that will be convinced by people like Babu, no, we can't. We have been supporting this guy. We even supported him. We even gave them a broad-based, it's their turn.
Yes. But is Babu Owino's constituency in Nairobi or in Luo Nyanza?
Babu can run anywhere in this country
and win. Agree with you there.
No, we're talking about the
status
support
quo
for the presidency, right? Will he have sufficient sway to take a portion, even if it's not the whole block, a significant portion, away from?
He can, because now it's a divided block. That is the truth. And when you say the Luo block, it also carries part of the Luo community, the youth. So it's divided. So as it is, I honestly, even me, I'm waiting to see who will take up that quote unquote kingship, but also consider there's a lot of youthful people who don't feel that.
They don't feel
Vibe.
belonging.
Yes, so that's
There's actually a hot take.
actually, next week we will have a very interesting debate.
Yeah,
Let's just see
I
how
know.
Raila goes.
There's
and then
actually
from
a
that.
hot take about the Luo Nyanza block, that actually it's more divided in terms of an ODM voting block, and actually the consolidated voting block for ODM is actually Kilifi and Mombasa counties in terms of how they voted in previous. I don't have the numbers. I'm saying it's a hot take because I've not looked at the numbers, but apparently that there was more independence in the independent candidates running in the ODM ninis than Kilifi County and Mombasa County that seem to be six-piece.
But then
ODM.
cost supports ODM proper.
Yeah. Not because just Mombasa, Kilifi, because Kwale went to UDA and Lamu. But I think that there's something happening in Luo Nyanza that is, it may be I don't know whether it's ODM, but there's something happening in Luo Nyanza, and whoever is able to
I actually
see,
feel it's across the country.
Yeah.
It's not even in Central now, except for Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah.
If Uhuru calls Central to order today,
attention, kila mtu.
attention will, yes. I don't think Wamunyoro will do. He's being listened, but he wouldn't have the influence that someone like Uhuru would have. It's the same for Raila calls the Nini today, they will listen.
Yeah.
Wanga, Anyang' Nyong'o.
Yeah.
So it's across the country. I don't think there's any, that thing we were saying of moving from personalities, it is somehow gaining ground a lot.
Yeah. So maybe as we wrap up, let me take us to the point of, in the eventuality on Saturday that Raila Odinga does. Where was it? What the other question I said? If he lost, no, if he got it.
Yes.
Now, in the eventuality, if he loses,
Comes back.
yeah, and he comes back, what happens to the status quo in government with broad-based? What in your opinion, right?
The most stressed
'cause you
person will be our president.
Because you said that William Ruto will breathe.
He will be stressed because now that guarantees Baba run 2027 or even before. Or even, also, okay, considering what the High Court ruled the other day. Yeah. So Baba has an upper hand, yes. Like he can just decide to come back and he's like, this bread-based thing is not even working for us. How about we disrupt this whole thing and do a shake-up? What do we want? We want to impeach Weta, because that's the first start.
Yeah.
So they impeach maybe Wetangula. So from there now, if Parliament has more quote-unquote ODM or Azimio people, what will happen? So they have to choose a speaker.
Yeah.
So that speaker comes from which side? Azimio. So who makes laws? Who does other things? Parliament. So what will happen? It's a complete shift. So now we'll have a president leading a nation with the quote-unquote opposition as his main supporter. So what happens? He has to swing. If they say jump, he's not asking why.
I have two hot takes.
No, let me tell you. Imagine that happens. Number two, what are the chances that now those people can decide to impeach a president? So you see why I'm saying Ruto, because now he has to think through now what next strategy. Because now he has to ensure he entertains the Raila Odinga from now to 2027. Because Raila, his influence still is, today Raila will come and say, oh, this government is not even listening to the people. It becomes a thing. And the way ODM people know how to talk. The MPs will take over and then... So yeah, that would be very interesting politically in Kenya. Chaka, and I think we are happy. We are ready for
what is your hot take? I sometimes Chaka's hot take makes me like, hey, sijui to pause kwanza
digest.
There are two hot takes I'd like you to consider, just as an alternative view. Number one, a lot of people, even Kenyans who've been supporting other AUC candidates out of this place of frustration and disappointment and saying that they don't want Baba to come back and hold WSR accountable, the president accountable. I think it would be probably very surprising to Kenyans, given all the effort that the president has done to support Baba, to expect that it would be such a binary situation that Baba would come back and immediately flip, or in the alternative, actually be grateful to WSR, the president, for having given that support, which strengthens their collaboration, actually. So now it wouldn't be so surprising. Last year it was surprising post-Gen Z to see them working together, broad-based government. But now it wouldn't be so surprising if you see them working together. That's number one to consider. Number two, in terms of, despite the ruling of the court, the dynamics of Parliament had already realigned. And something to consider in respect of Speaker Wetangula, this is the second hot take. There was already rumblings of his seat not being secure, possibly because of not folding his party to join UDA, unlike what ANC did. So if he's taken a different path apart from UDA, and now he's ruled in a way that doesn't work in Azimio's favor. You were talking about impeachment. If a motion is brought to the floor and Kenya Kwanza members take the position that we do not support you because you refused to formally join the coalition, even after having been given this prestigious seat, which is in the third in line to the presidency, effectively. So you have not reciprocated the loyalty. And on this other side, Azimio is very justified because you have ruled in a way that does not work for us. And given what the impeachment we saw of the Wamunyoro, maybe one thing that we are not considering is that we also now have a broad-based bunge.
Wow, interesting perspectives. I think bottom line, at this moment, Wetangula is the most stressed Kenyan at the moment because of the dynamics you've given, which we've all seen. Yeah, because his chances of
survival.
Let's
call
if
it
he
survival.
survives, I don't know.
Let's call it survival.
I highly doubt he will.
Yeah.
Unless he agrees to fold that party. Like if he wants to retain Fort Kenya.
That's one of the things that the judges actually said, that as speaker, you being party leader.
But that makes me now think, and this is now, I'm finishing with my hot take, that makes me now think that even the timing of this judgment was not in recognition to actually what happened, or rather the injustice that happened in 6th October 2022, but it's actually in the context of political consolidation, consolidating power, because that's what politicians in power do. You don't get into power to leave power.
But this is what Kenyans should understand
yes.
from what you're saying. There's nothing in politics that's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like people plan things from
Yeah,
far,
so I am actually now, my hot take is that this ruling seems to have some sort of political, let me say, backing, in my opinion, that now lays the ground for Weta's removal because you did not fold your party. And we are now in campaign mode, and we need to consolidate our power because like what we were saying earlier, the people have spoken, they don't want us, but we are not going anywhere.
It's as I said, I think Weta is a very stressed Kenyan at the moment. I'm just watching to see how he deals with that. Very stressed for sure. Your other scenario of Raila working with Ruto, that they can do for sure. Raila is very unpredictable, I keep saying that. But even if they worked together, it will be for a short while. It cannot. That marriage is not meant to. It's a convenience for. And you see, the fact that we're already saying Weta chances of survival are minimal. It means the speaker seat will be empty.
And who
pulls the seats, the strings, the most?
Part of the shift that is happening in our politics, possibly, and I want to draw from the example of two countries where party politics is actually more matured than ours, Tanzania and South Africa. In South Africa, you saw that ANC, the Freedom Party, had such a strong hold for a long time, even though it was being edged away over time, initially by the DA, but now most recently by Mkhonto Sizwe. And what the interesting dynamic I'd like to point out there is that you now see somebody who's a former president who cannot run again having such substantial influence on the politics of the country in the name of Jacob Zuma. So we naturally assume, especially because he's run very many times, that Baba's natural instinct is to run for the presidency. But he could be, and as he may even very well be right now, influence so much without necessarily being in the presidency. Another example is in Tanzania, where Chama cha Mapinduzi, the chair of the party, has such great influence to in even steering the politics of the country and where it goes. So you saw Nyerere still being a very instrumental figure, Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete being such an instrumental figure. So, and that's part of now where the angle of institutionalizing our political parties comes
from. Yeah, but also, Tanzania is still also having some, let me call it political intolerance issues.
They do.
But
but I also feel those two countries you've mentioned, yes, the way they've run their democracy is very different from how we've run ours. Because here, the fact that it's person-oriented, that has... We are working on it, but and then the background that TZ has, the Ujamaa thing, I think to date still has mental influence on a lot of them. Here it's every man for themselves, God for us all. Yeah, so it's a bit, but it's a very good Of course, if Raila says it's me, just know we are in. If he says otherwise, you prepare for the worst. So interesting.
So all this is really just in speculation, as the whole country and continent is waiting to see which direction the heads of state vote for vote for, I'm already saying they're voting for Raila. I think I know, but vote for who's going to be the new Africa Union Commission chairperson. So we're just speculating, and maybe next week we'll have a different conversation. So that brings us to the end of our conversation today with Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much for coming. I know we've gone through all different topics.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on board and even hosting us here. We appreciate the Alpha House for hosting our podcast episode. And do you want to tell our audience where we can find the Alpha House online?
Thank you very much. That was a fantastic conversation. For newcomers, welcome to Alpha House. Just go to YouTube, search the Alpha House Social. You will find all our beautiful conversations we've had. You'll even find them there because we've held conversations together. And while there, do subscribe. And also, if you're on this channel and you've not subscribed, just hit that button. These guys are doing an amazing job. So support their work. Otherwise, thank you very much. See you some other times.
Yes, we will want you again as a guest. So thank you so much. You've heard it from our guest here. If you haven't subscribed, better just press that button right now and stay connected.
Subscribe ni free. See you soon on a screen near you.